Hello friends, my name is Uttam Chaudhary and you have started watching my channel Excel to Excellence. Now in the series of Excel Quick Bites, today we are going to talk about the very powerful formula VLOOKUP. Now when somebody talks about their proficiency in Excel and in the conversation somebody would definitely ask you, do you really know VLOOKUP? And that's where people always keep looking that how good are you with VLOOKUP when you talk about Excel. So today in this series for VLOOKUP, we are going to talk three different ways how to use this formula. But before we continue, please do subscribe my channel Excel to Excellence and press the notification button, the bell icon, so that as soon as I send any updates, as soon as I update any video, you get the notification and you do not miss any of the videos. Also, do like my videos and send the comments so that I can improve on the quality of the videos that I'm making. Thank you so much. Now, before we continue with the VLOOKUP formula, let's understand the sheet a little bit. I've created three examples before, example 1, 2, and 3, in order to understand the three different ways of using VLOOKUP. And this example 1 does have the data of different countries. Now, in the first column, we do have the name of the country, then what region it belongs to, the population, the square kilometer, the area and square kilometer, and their GDP in million. So this data, what we want to do is, if you have any purpose, how would you want to, say for example, if you select or write the name of any country in the country, you would exactly see the reference data being picked up in these three cells. Let's start with the first one. So what we are going to do is, in order to make things easier, I would select the entire table and would want to give the name of this table in a range. So say for example, I'll give this table a name called country data. As soon as I do that, now this makes my life a little more easier. Now, for example, let me copy the first name here. As soon as I copy this, let's start putting the formula. How do we want to do this? So for this, press the equals to button and then we can type VLOOKUP and then what is the lookup value in this case? So my lookup value is Afghanistan in this case, okay? The country name. Now with this, what is the table in which I am looking? I can give the table name as country data. If you see here, you already have the country data here. Now, what is the data I need to pick from which column? Now I need to pick the data from region in this particular cell. So region will figure out in column number 2, and that's where I give the column number 2 here. And I'll give you the rationale how to kind of do it. So in further, which I'm going to talk in a while now. So now we're talking about exact match. So yes, I press 0 and you see the name popping up here. Now let's go over the formula one more time. What are we really doing in here? So we always need to keep in mind that the reference, the one we are referring to, should always, the value we are referring to should always be in the first column. And then we can give the subsequent reference columns in perspective to first column, right? So in this case, we do have the country name in the first column, and then I am able to say, hey, my country name please match my country name and then tell me what is the region in the second column. And that's where you see the country name is, I have taken the reference of the country name, and then I've given the name of the entire array, that is country underscore data. And this, in this array, I'm saying fetch me the data from column 2, which is region. And then the last value which says I need exact matching. So which means I will actually put 0 in here. Yeah. Or I can always put true and false based on my requirement. I can do exactly the same thing. I can copy this formula. But before that, let me do one thing. Let me go and freeze this. In order to freeze the first value, I have to press F4, and this is frozen. I'll press enter, and then I keep copying this, keep changing the value of the column. In this case, this will be 3, and then I can say, okay, what is my square kilometers? I can copy this and I can change it to 4 as a reference, and then the fourth value that I need to pick, I can change this to 5. What I can also do is I can format this a little bit to make it more obvious. Yeah, it should look legible. So I'll introduce commas, separators, and I'll make this as a dollar value. So to give you a sense that this is what we are talking about at this moment, we can fetch the value. Now there's something interesting you can do. You need not type the name of the country every time. What you can do is, in this case, there's something called data validation. Under data validation, you can go and make a drop down of this countries. And how can you do this? Let me repeat this. And I can go to data, I can go to data validation, go to list. In this, I will go and select the name of all the countries, and I'll say OK. Now with this, it automatically gives you a drop down of name of the countries. Now the good part is, now if I go and select the name of the country, if I go and change the name of the country, you see the data gets updated. So this is one way of doing VLOOKUP. If you have any questions, you can write me on the comments, and I'll be happy to respond to that. Now let's move to example number 2. Now in this case, let's come back to example 1. One thing that you might have to keep in mind, that which differentiates from example 1 versus example 2, is this value here, 0. If you look here, 0 actually talks about the true and false, which means if you look at exact match, if you are looking at exact match, you have to select 0 or false. And if you are looking for appropriate match, approximate match, then you can choose true, which is 1. Now in this case, I don't need a range, I need exact value, and that's the reason I've chosen 0 in this case, because I need exact match. But in example 2, let's understand this data a little bit. So there's a sales data from all of these people who have done the sales of a certain amount, and there's a commission that has been allocated for as a payout for them, as a percentage of their sales. Now, I want to know that what is the commission that would apply to these people pertaining to the amount of sales they have done. Now, if you look here, this is my reference column, which tells that if the representative have done a sales of $5,000, he is eligible for 3% commission. Then 10,000 would be 5, and so on and so forth. So now, how do I determine that what commission will apply to these people for the payout. So, okay, let's start. So I would say VLOOKUP, I would do the reference of this value, and then I would go and select the array where the first column would be matched on the sales value, and then the second column is what we want to extract here. And then we go here and say, hey, I want to pick the value from second column. So I say 2, but just notice here that I do not want exact match because these values are not exactly matching to these. I want approximate match to be able to find the value in the range. So for approximate match, I would put 1 and press OK. Now if you look here, anything between let me copy before copying, let me talk about this. So $9,860 is actually less than 10,000 and more than 5,000, so 3% would apply in this case. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the range here, and for locking the range here I press F4. Oops, I would only want to select this guy here, this particular range, and press F4 and press enter. And then I can go ahead and propagate everything here. Now, if you look here, it automatically takes what is the range, what is the commission that would apply, and it also looks at the range. So if you look here, these numbers are not matching exactly to these numbers, but it is able to identify the approximate value and understand between which range to which range this percentage would fall. And then you can obviously do this times 3%, and obviously you get the value of commission that needs to be paid out. So if you look here, this is pretty much telling you how to calculate. The key here is to know where to use, where to exactly use the approximation versus exact match, right? I hope this is helpful. Let's go to example 3. In example 3, you will see that there's a student data here in which you have the roll number of the student, you have the first name, you have the last name, and the gender. However, in the second sheet, you have the student grades, but you don't know the name, nothing. It's just the roll number and the grades of these particular subjects. Now you would like to put and merge the entire table into in here. And how can you do that? For that, we would go here and first of all, we'll create the table range. And how would we do that? We can give the name, we'll select this range and give the name as student underscore grade. Once I do this, I can pretty much go here, yeah, and now the commonality here is that the roll number is common between both the both the value both the tables. So I can pretty much go here and say VLOOKUP, and then my first thing, the reference point for me is the roll number, and then I would choose the array which I have already given the name as student grade, and then the column. Now I need to know where the column is. The first one, the first column sits in 2 here. The second, the first value that I need to pick sits in column number 2. So I can pretty much go here, and I don't need to give the. I can pretty much say 2, and then say exact match. I can say OK here. Yeah. Now, one thing that you have to do in here is that this is pretty much good. Now what I can do is, just to ensure that the roll number doesn't move from left to right, what I need to do is I can go ahead and lock this, but I do not want it to move horizontally, right? It can move vertically, but I don't want it to move horizontally. So I'll press F4 first to lock the whole thing, and then I go here, which locks the vertical movement, which I don't want. The third one is the one which locks the horizontal movement with the dollar value before the alphabet. And then I can pretty much go ahead and copy the formula here, right? What I can also do is, instead of making this, copying in the first go, I can pretty much go here and change the column to 3, then probably column to 4 in this case, then column to 5, and then 6. Now this, you can copy this and you can paste in all the table, and you'll see that the data comes up so nicely. Yeah. Now you are able to combine both the sheets together to get the reference of the name, first name, last name, gender, along with the grades, which obviously, now if you don't want the lookup, now this table, since you have been able to merge the data, you do not want anything to get messed up in future. So you can pretty much go ahead and convert this into value. And how would you do that? You can go paste special, under paste special, press value, and you see that the formula is gone, and now this is an absolute value. You don't need this table anymore for this purpose, and you're good to go. So this was example one, which talks about, from the drop down, how can you fetch the information. From example two, which tells you about the approximate data and how do you calculate the commission. And in third one, you merge the large table by using, from the two different tables, how can you merge into one, the large data. I hope this video was helpful. Please send your comments. Please do like my channel, subscribe my channel, like the videos, and press the bell icon for getting the notification. Thank you so much.